Welcome back, everybody. We just wrapped up our 2D image mask that we made using Image Mapper in our element graph, and that we did that taking individual images, mapping them to a certain UV space, and then turning this all into one big mask using multiple blends along the way. And that is the final output here on the bottom left of the screen. So ultimately our goal is to make this into 4 mesh decals that are then placed around the box instead of us making 28 individual logos that we'd hand place on the box in a layering project. So this is pretty effective workflow. Once you understand the concept of how to set something like this up, it'll become second nature, and it won't take nearly as long as me sitting here telling you every single step and following all of those instructions along the way. You'll just be a lot more comfortable with working with this project going forward. Let's do our mesh decals now. So let's pull off from our mesh down here. We have our original source mesh, but we also have the one where we set the vertex color. So we're going to take that one and bring this up here and type in reroute. And we're going to pull right off of this and do a mesh decal. And we're just going to get the first 2 set up, and then we're going to add in the other 2. So how we go about that? Let's plug in this image just to guide us so that we can see what we're doing. And then we're going to quickly just blend this right on top of the box. So that'll be our background, and then this will be our foreground. And right now it's not using any mask or anything, but we can at least see the result of what that's going to be. So let's take this mesh decal and get it where we need it. And remember, this is just a mask at the end of the day. So we can use a color and use this inside of the mask instead. And that's going to be the real trick here. And if you look on the inside of the box, guess what? There are no issues. That is because the default normal fall off setting for the decal in an element graph is set to 1, whereas in the layering project it's set to 0, so you have to set that manually inside of the layering project. That may change in the future, I'm not sure, but we'll see. Everything's early access, so there's constantly changes going around. Now we're going to say that this looks pretty decent. We'll use this as our mask, right? And so now we can go ahead and expand this and see what other options we have. Right now it has use mask turned off, as you can see here on the side too as well. So instead of using this as the image, we'll use this as the mask. And to do that, we're going to have to do a brand new draw connection in and plug that in so that it converts this to a grayscale. And now with that converted to a grayscale, we know that we want to control the color, and currently the color is being driven by an image. But if we did a solid color node and plug that into our image, then we get exactly this. So this is working out great. This is exactly the result that we want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and set the rest of this up using all of these other decals. Let's just modify this a little bit more. And in fact, what we could do is we could go back and modify the individual locations of all of these logos along the way. But for right now, I'm just going to scale this whole decal up so it fits on the side of the box. And now I'm going to duplicate this all the way across. So same method, collapse this. And I'm going to drag this down. And I'm going to make a reroute node for this. And this is just going to be a reroute for our mask. And then I'm going to drag out on here and do a reroute for this as well. And just put this right in the center. And actually we're going to put it in order of the input so it makes a little bit more sense. I'll drag that off to the side, and I'll drag this up here and drag this up here. So it's just a little bit neater. Let's duplicate this decal. And let's assign it the mesh. Let's assign it the image, and let's assign it the mask. And let's take this decal and move it over to the position we're going to need it and rotate it on the Y by 90 degrees. And now we run into the issue of, well, we need to blend this together. So let's blend them together. Let's add a blend. And I'm going to hold down Control and drag off of this pin and take this from the output of the Mesh Decal and put it as the output of the blend instead. That's a really handy little trick to just be able to move pins around. I really, really like that. I use that a lot in Unreal Engine. So happy to see that in here. And now we have this other Mesh Decal that's not lining up right. So let's put that there. And that's looking nice. All sharp and clean. Very good. And now we need to duplicate this whole setup and then drive this into another blend as well, because we're going to have these blend all together. So let's hook up all of our pins. And then hook this up into our foreground and our background. And finally, we're going to make one more blend. And that blend is going to be from this foreground, do this thing I talked about earlier. Hold down Control, drag it over to our output, and then we can plug these in. Now we can go ahead and modify where these are located. So the first decal is on this flap that's coming outward. And then that one, so we want to be on the opposing side of this. So I'm going to drag this over here. And since we have that normal fall off on there, it's only looking at the positive Z, so we need to rotate this one 180 degrees. And then finally, we need to do the last decal, which is here. So we'll move this to the other side of the box. And we'll rotate this to 270. And now with all of these in place, I mean, we still want to try and get really close to the surface of the box there. Everything on the inside is taken care of automatically for us. And so all of that troubleshooting that we did before in our layering project, where we set up this mesh polygon mask or the vertex color mask, or it could have been a UV shell mask to protect all of this artwork. And then if we had gone down the road of making every single one of these for every logo, we would have ended up with 28 different masks stacked in this one multi-channel layer. And that's just overly confusing and not very efficient. And it's as easy as it is, it doesn't take too long. It still limits you in flexibility for a lot of stuff going forward. Whereas now we're at a position where we can make very, very quick changes to this entire logo design all in one go, all because this image mapper is now only 4 decals instead of 28. So huge time saver, really worth it. It was a lot of fun to experiment with how all of this works inside of InstaMAT and learn about that as well. The next video that we're going to do, we are going to set up the material, look at how we finalize that with the outputs, and connecting up any of the bake data that we need to get out of a mesh bake that we did in an earlier video. So I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and I can't wait to talk to you again.